Yo, I hope you all had a very Merry Christmas. It's the Pigs and Fergs wrestling podcast.
It's Pigs and Fergs.
Yeah.
Pigs and Fergs.
Pigs and
You're
Fergs.
No longer,
this is the third time. Jeez, the third time I've messed that up. But it's fine because we all got a bit merry over Christmas. And hey, tomorrow we're going to be getting our party on with New Year's Eve tomorrow. And are you excited for the New Year, Piggy?
New year, new me, new Fergal.
Yes, new us. But same old, good old wrestling podcast. And today we are doing Unforgiven 2006. Last week we did the Christmas episode of Raw from 2012 because that was your first ever episode watching, wasn't it, Piggy?
That was indeed my first ever introduction to wrestling.
So this one is mine, and it's my turn this week, and we're doing Unforgiven 2006 because it was September of 2006 where I first became a wrestling fan. And I'll just give a bit of background, if I may, for why I got into wrestling. I put on Sky Sports one day, and there was John Cena, and who was he facing? It was Lita, and he had one arm tied behind his back, and the rest, they say, is history. Now, I've been a fan for 16 years, over 16 years, and I'm still rocking with the wrestling. And the first ever show that I really vividly remember, or the first highlights that I really saw, were from Unforgiven 2006, because that pay-per-view had just happened when I became a wrestling fan, and it's my benchmark for when I got into it. And the spot in the main event, which ends it, Cena with the FU to Edge off the ladder through tables, 2 tables in fact, that was the moment where I was like, this is badass, I love this, I want to watch more of it. So, with that in mind, have you actually seen this show before, Piggy?
I remember about 3 years ago, I want to say, my good friend Aqua Dreams, at Aqua Dreams there, on Twitch, on YouTube, or Easily Entertained on YouTube as well. We'll link their channels below. I'm personally putting this in, we're linking their channels. I'll link you their channels afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And my other friend, Slater, who is a really close friend of mine, we were watching Unforgiven 2006 about 3 years ago, and we all got to the infamous moment in the Hell in a Cell match, and we were like, no, we're not watching this anymore, and we all left. That was the only time I watched it.
That was another moment where I was like, this is the sport for me. And we'll get to it later on in the Hell in a Cell. But that's another reason I wanted to pick this show. Hell in a Cell and TLC on the same show. I don't think it's ever happened since. Also, the debut of the updated Hell in a Cell. But again, we'll get to that. But before we get into the actual pay-per-view itself, we always do the nostalgia seg. So we're going to talk about the video game first. So what was the video game out during this time?
The video game out at this time was SVR 07. I will get you the date as we speak. SVR 2007 came out on the 10th of November. It's in development at this point, but it's coming out soon, so we might as well include it. It comes out the 10th of November 2006. What is your memories of SVR 2007?
Begging my parents to get it for Christmas. That's what I remember. I had it on my list since the adverts were on during the Sky showings of Raw. So you would get SmackDown vs. Raw trailers throughout the commercial breaks of the wrestling when I was watching it, when I first got into it. And I knew I had to get it. And this was also the first time I actually got a gaming console. First time ever was PS2. And I got SmackDown vs. Raw 2007. And I'll let you try and guess what the second game I got on it was.
Was it SVR 2006?
Sadly not, but it was similar in terms of its like hardcore, violent content. I'm talking, of course, about Happy Feet, the video game. On the PS2, you had to swim through the oceans, through the ice, you had to collect fish. In many ways, it was not necessarily the polar opposite to SmackDown vs. Raw 2007. I'd like to say they complement each other quite well as a gaming experience for me. So, there you go. Have you ever played Happy Feet, the video game?
I have not, but I will make sure to emulate, get my legally owned PS2 on that.
There you go.
And play it.
Have you ever played SmackDown vs. Raw 2007? What are your thoughts on that game? Because it's my favourite wrestling game ever, no doubt.
I played it on the Xbox 360, and I thought it was a delightful game. It's the last appearance for Chris Benoit ever in a video game. and it's the last video game appearance for Kurt Angle until TNA Impact and until not SVR, 2K18.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool people in that game. Not saying that Chris Benoit's cool by any means. You know what I mean? The storyline, the story mode though was that was the one that was quite controversial with Benoit, wasn't it? It was a bit eerie because it was one with the Undertaker, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Undertaker said an infamous line. He said, "I'll try and grab the line very quickly. Will you interlude here?"
Yeah, so I remember the GM mode as well. In particular, you could still book for velocity and heat on that version as well. The career mode was fantastic. And the locker room was definitely my favourite feature. I had a water feature in there. I had a Chris Masters statue. I had my trophy case full of wrestling titles. You know, I had diva cutouts, you name it.
Oh, sorry.
My locker room was it was beautiful. I wish they brought that back for modern WWE games. But yeah, what was the line?
Give me a second.
Of course.
Well, that was not the line. Benoit says, "I'm sick of you ducking me, Undertaker. You know I'm the most dominant superstar on SmackDown, and you know you can't prove me wrong." That was Benoit's line to Undertaker. And the Undertaker says, "You think I'm afraid of you, little man? I can't count the number of superstars who've tested themselves against the dead man and come up short. If you insist on making this mistake, your grieving family will have no one to blame but you when the inevitable occurs."
Holy shit. That's not very light. It's still technically the festive season, so we still need to keep it a little bit festive. You know. But with that said... Yeah. This was a great game. Would highly recommend people pick it up and play it if they've not before. Probably, in my opinion, it's the best game ever. I mean, just from my experience playing it, I know it's not the best game ever, but I loved it quite a lot. But that was a video game. And fond memories of that. Fond memories of the wrestling figures as well around this time, because this was also around the time where I started collecting wrestling figures. Would have been December of 2006. I picked up my first figure. It was a Carlito action figure, a Ruthless Aggression figure. I also picked up a Regal and Burchill 2-pack from his pirate gimmick, and also I think it was a Deluxe Aggression Chris Benoit with a snappable ladder, and the SmackDown Arena as well. But what was on ringside at this time? Were you able to get it?
Yeah, I was able to get it. Do you want me to send you the link?
No, it's alright. Just talk us through it.
Right, we have Classic Superstar Series 12, and I will go through that once it loads. We have the Rocky exclusives, and in the Classic Superstars, there's different sets you can get. There's a set of 10, and there's a set of 8. In Series 12, you had Ultimate Warrior, Arn Anderson, Hulk Hogan, Dean Malenko, Brooklyn Brawler, Nasty Boy Brian Knobbs, Nasty Boy Jerry Sags, Captain Lou Albano, Jimmy Valiant, Killer Kowalski, Jimmy Valiant, and Killer Kowalski.
That's a sick lineup. I remember all those classic superstars. I never bought them in the stores, but I wish I had in hindsight, because there were so many different legends, and also from a variety of time periods. This time, modern day anyway, you don't really see a lot from the 70s, but I suppose back then that would have been more vintage, so more of those kind of guys. So I dig that. What about the main line, like the Deluxe Aggression, Ruthless Aggression? What else is sticking out on that page?
We have Ruthless Aggression 22.5 and Deluxe Aggression 5. I will go through Deluxe Aggression now. So we have the complete set of 6. We have Rob Van Dam,
Denny Malenko and Rod Van Dam.
Yeah, sorry, the eggnog's been hitting me hard since Christmas.
Fair enough. We're still on a bender, but go on.
Big Show, Matt Hardy, Triple H, John Cena, and Batista.
That is a really good lineup. That's like 6 solid wrestlers anyway. I don't know what series Chris Benoit would have been in then. Maybe like the one after this. But I don't know. It was one of the early ones that I got. And the Ruthless Aggression, what's going on there?
So we have Big Show, Shawn Michaels, Edge, Lita, I nearly said the Briscoes, Psychosis, Undertaker, and Rey Mysterio.
Fair enough. I would have been really into my figures at this time. or at least around this time, obviously. Didn't start collecting until a couple months after, but still some cool figures listed there. And finally... go continue.
Sorry, there's also 2 exclusives. You can get the internet exclusive Kane. It comes with a burnt face and a mask. And you can also get the 2 dudes with attitude exclusive. It comes with a Shawn Michaels and a Diesel for $26.
Oh, the prices are so cool. The prices are so low. Oh, imagine that getting an exclusive that cheap. Oh, couldn't be today. Inflation, I suppose, isn't it? But
and the articulation was shite, but whatever.
Oh yeah, no, that's true. True, I suppose. But I still like the big bulky figures, the ones you could throw against the wall and they'd be fine. Especially when I was a kid playing with them, I'd just be bashing their heads in. I remember I broke a Kevin Thorne by having the Great Khali give him a tombstone pile driver on a set of stairs, and the head popped off and flew across the room. But even then, it was fine. You could just tape it up, and move on. I'm sure you people might remember the old taped up wrestling figures from my early shows, but yeah, just more durable back in the day anyway. So that's for the wrestling figures. We've covered that. What about the competition? Not necessarily just the competition, what was also happening this week on WWE programming, and as well, what was happening in TNA?
Well, on the September 11, 2006 episode of Raw, it was hailing from Madison Square Garden in New York. The matches were Umaga with Fergs, Armando Estrada, defeated Ric Flair by DQ in 1 minute and 6 seconds. Rowdy Roddy Piper and the Highlanders, Robbie McAllister and Roaring McAllister, defeated the Spirit Squad, Johnny, Nicky and Mickey, with Mitch and Nicky at ringside in 8 minutes. Sadly, Roddy Piper's now with Sean O'Hare. Carlito, Jeff Hardy and John Cena defeated Edge, Johnny Nitro and Randy Orton with Lita and Melina in 17:47. Super Crazy defeated Chris Masters in 2 minutes and 58 seconds. Trish Stratus defeated Mickie James in 3 minutes and 14 seconds, and Mr. McMahon defeated Triple H in a no-holds-barred match in 7 minutes.
That was a match that was covered on this pay-per-view. He hit him in the head with a pipe, and this was cursed red top Vince McMahon as well. So you had that. We're going to talk about SmackDown as well. What about the SmackDown before this pay-per-view?
We'll talk about TNA first.
Ooh.
I have to go to the episode because
I believe this is also around the time where Kurt Angle was set to debut for TNA.
Yeah, Kurt Angle debuts in...
He's announced in September. I think he's announced around this time, but he actually debuts in October.
I have some of the results here for 2006. For 14, it has Christopher Daniels and AJ Styles defeat Frankie Kazarian and Matt Bentley, and ambulance just went by. Chris Sabin defeated Alex Shelley and not Hangman Adam Page, but Hangman's horror match. Abyss defeats Raven.
So not too bad. Some decent... I suppose this was also when it was only 1 hour, yes?
Yeah, it would have been.
Because only 3 matches, yeah, that makes sense. But, yeah, again, TNA, probably their best year, 2006, would you say? I'd agree with that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, 2006 is when you had Christian, and then you had Monty Brown.
Yeah, good mix there. Christian versus Monty Brown as well is the top 3 favourite matches of yours, isn't it?
Yes, it was.
So SmackDown, I wonder if you got the ECW results as well.
I can grab the ECW results. Alright, I have the result from September 12, 2006. ECW in Madison Square Garden in New York. CM Punk. Rob Van Dam defeated Hardcore Holly via disqualification in 4 minutes and 50 seconds. CM Punk defeated Shannon Moore in 1 minute and 51 seconds. Rene Dupree defeated Balls Mahoney in 3 minutes and 24 seconds. And the Big Show champion with Paul Heyman defeated Sabu in an Extreme Rules match to retain the ECW Championship, and your commentators was Taz and Joey Styles.
Oh, I see. Sabu got a bit of a raw deal. His book's really good though, I'd recommend it.
Is it? I haven't read it.
It's a good read. Yeah, it's a bit all over the place. Well, actually, no, it's not all over the place. Just because he's got so many like weird, wacky stories. I think he's a good. It's a good read. Definitely would. It's an easy read anyway. And SmackDown.
SmackDown from September 15, 2006, and the DCU Centre in Worcester, Massachusetts. Again, the eggnog is kicking in.
Yeah.
This is on UPN, by the way, or Sky in Ireland and England at the time. The dark match saw Sylvain
Grenier.
Sylvain. Jesus, I'm all over the place here. Defeated Scott Wright.
Who is Scott Wright?
Scott Wright. Who is Scott Wright? Indeed. Yeah, Scotty Charisma is apparently his name.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe this was like a before they were famous type guy, but never mind.
This. I sent you a photo of this guy. There he is. Have a look. There you go.
Wow, he definitely looks like he's got a lot of charisma.
He looks like Dean Malenko if Dean Malenko was shit.
Den Malenko.
He's Den Malenko.
This is Den Malenko. And on the main card of SmackDown, what we got going here, because this would have been around the time of King Booker.
We've got Gregory Helms, who defeated Matt Hardy in 6 minutes and 21 seconds. The Miz defeated Scotty 2 Hotty in 4 minutes and 51 seconds. The Miz also had to dress outside the locker rooms. Brian Kendrick with Ashley and Paul London defeated Idol Stevens with Casey James and Michelle McCool, and Kid Cash with Jamie Noble in a triple threat match in 3 minutes and 10 seconds.
Idol Stevens, before we get on to anything else, Idol Stevens is actually Damien Sandow as well, for people who didn't know.
I just thought it was Richard Stevens, but they couldn't call him Richard Stevens.
Richard Stevens, Denny Malenko, Rod Van Dam, Robbie Piper. Sounds like a good faction. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it's a better faction than what they got going on in 2006 WWE, to be fair. But, yeah, what about the rest of the card, sorry?
Mr. Kennedy.
Yeah.
Defeated Rey Mysterio in 17 minutes and 7 seconds. Vito defeated William Regal, who got bitched out with brass knuckles, but here, anyhow, in 4 minutes and 58 seconds. Sylvester Turkey with Elijah Burke defeated Todd Smith in 2 minutes and 34 seconds. Any thoughts on that match? Do you know who Sylvester Turkey is?
I really loved Sylvester Turkey when I first got into wrestling, I'm not going to lie. I thought his... because he was like MMA before, and his finisher was the Muscle Buster as well. Shortly after this, they'd be put onto ECW, and Turkey would be released, or ask for his release in January 2007, and then Elijah Burke would be pushed as a main guy on ECW. So, yeah, I like Turkey, but I'm probably in the minority there. It's quite a niche name.
Bobby Lashley, when he had no charisma, defeated Finlay with King Booker. I know you said King Sharmell. Queen Sharmell and William Regal by DQ in a World Heavyweight title #1 contenders match in 13 minutes and 15 seconds. And your commentators were Michael Cole and John Bradshaw Layfield. And your Raw commentators were JR and The King.
So Bobby Lashley wins this match, but he actually has to fight in a fatal 4-way at No Mercy. And fun fact, well, not really a fun fact, maybe it is to me, but my nostalgia remembers them pushing No Mercy heavily on Sky Sports to like buy the pay-per-view, and I begged my parents to get No Mercy, but alas, they weren't willing to spend 15 quid on a probably not age-appropriate pay-per-view for little 8-year-old Fergs. So again, I had to wait several years afterwards to watch it, but that's what I remember from that time period. So yeah, a solid mix of wrestling there. There's some gems in there. You got some stars, but again, I remember fans at the time, at least when you go back, you can tell they are not happy with the product, or any product really. So just wait a couple years past people and you'll see that wrestling has a lot further to fall. But we'll stay on the positive and we'll talk about this pay-per-view. Overall, love this show. Always have loved this show. I would say it's one of my favourite pay-per-views ever. It's Unforgiven 2006, and the opening is focused mainly on tonight's Hell in a Cell and TLC, and of course we've also got Trish Stratus' retirement. And it's a Canadian crowd. What did you think about the crowd tonight?
We were certainly in Bizarro Land, weren't we?
Bizarro Land, yeah. How dare they boo John Cena?
Yeah, our hero. You know, he stopped. Did you hear the story about John Cena where he stopped a train with his arms? Like, he has webs out of his arms and he stopped a train. Jesus, it was a crazy time.
I do remember. I remember something about that, but I'll have to go back into the dirt sheets, because I'm sure Meltzer was reporting on that. But then again, the dirt sheets wouldn't report on something like that, would they? Because they're biased against John Cena.
I also heard John Cena once kicked a football for Charlie Brown. Was it Charlie Brown, the kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, he also kicked the football for him because the lady wouldn't let him. I also remember John Cena once stopping a bullet in a speeding second.
But what he couldn't stop was Edge from screwing him over at SummerSlam the previous month. So tonight we've got a TLC match between John Cena and Edge. Edge is the hometown favourite. What will happen later, we'll find out. But our opening contest, and obviously commentary is Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler. Did you think they were a bit off tonight? Because they didn't seem to have any chemistry whatsoever. Not like us, of course.
Yeah, they seemed very off. The competition wouldn't stand for this. Don West and Mike Tenay, they're proper commentators, unlike Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler.
Kings of commentary, Don West and Mike Tenay. But Jim Ross, yeah, I don't know what it was really, but it felt like they just weren't that interested tonight. I could be wrong. You
could be wrong, or you could be right, with our first match.
Which
Johnny
is for
Nitro.
The Intercontinental Championship as well. Yes, it's Johnny Nitro, and he's facing Jeff Hardy. So, we've got mysterious few years of Jeff Hardy's disappearance. Ooh, where was he, Piggy? Where could he have been in this mysterious absence?
He might have been making an impact in ROH.
Wink, wink. So,
quick side note. Do you remember when Jeff Hardy went to Ring of Honor and they completely booed him out of the building?
Oh my god, they did not like him at all. That's sad, isn't it? But I think he wasn't exactly in the best mental state at the time.
No, and then he went to Universal Studios to film Night of the Museum 1.
Oh yes, he played. I want to say he played didn't he play Teddy Roosevelt?
Yeah. I'm not being sarcastic. He totally did. Yeah.
This whole podcast is just made up of lies and falsehoods. We need to get back on track.
But John Cena did stop a train by spewing webs out of his arms.
That's Trey exactly White, what Vince McMahon would have you believe. But we start off
Trey White would have you believe that.
Yeah, fair enough. He is a god among men, is John Cena.
Who are you to deny Trey White's imagination? Who are you to deny MDT's imagination?
Well,
are you G Natty? Are you G Natty denying his imagination?
I'm sorry. Here? I'm sorry.
He's a 26-year-old who likes to believe. All right, you're ruining Christmas for him. He's at home having turkey and you're ruining Christmas for him. He was having a lovely Christmas until he heard this episode and he heard you spewing lies about John Cena. How dare you? How dare you, sir? How dare you? You ruined Christmas and New Year's. His child is crying now.
Johnny Nitro faces Jeff Hardy in the opener. You went on your rant. It's a nice segue now, because Melina, her screeching, Jesus Christ, that was annoying.
It was annoying, yes.
There's heel heat, but then there's the bad kind of heel heat, And I feel like Melina was on the edge there.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, I've calmed down now.
All right, good. You've calmed down. But were you excited from Melina's entrance? Because obviously, she does the splits and it's all sexy. Like Jerry Lawler was certainly enjoying it. What did you think? Because we're two.
Well, my forbidden door swings both ways, so I was more excited for Johnny Nitro.
Hell yeah! Nitro shredded here as well. This is like
you could grate cheese off them ads.
Absolutely, great cheese off his ass. He's that chiseled. But Johnny Nitro, obviously, he's shredded. Melina, they're playing up the Hollywood type gimmick where they're too good for everyone else. Jeff Hardy as well comes in, and this is his first pay-per-view match back in several years. So a couple of arm drags to start off, really. Jeff continuously cutting off Johnny Nitro, but then there's a dropkick to the knee, and I think that's where Jeff falls off the top rope, and Nitro's going to focus his work on the knee throughout this match. And obviously he's Jeff Hardy. He's the high flyer in this one, and he goes for a lot of offense.
He's also flying high in real life.
He is. Well, for a couple of months, he's fine. He's chugging along nicely. This is before we knew any better. But Jeff Hardy, he's trying all this high-risk offense. At one point, though, Nitro hits a beautiful corkscrew moonsault off the top rope, which felt quite out of place in 2006 WWE. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree.
And would you talk about the style that these two wrestle? Because not necessarily a style, but the way they wrestle. I think Nitro has a unique way of moving in the ring. I don't know if you kind of picked up on that.
I think he does have a unique style. He has footwork like Christian, but no one has enough footwork.
Yeah, of course. We'll continuously go on about Christian Cage's amazing footwork. But Johnny Nitro, his parkour skills are on display here. There are a lot of near falls in this matchup. The crowd is eating into it, though. And this is just the start of Nitro and Jeff Hardy's rivalry. Jeff hits a Whisper in the Wind, hits the Swanton, but he can't connect with the cover because he's selling the leg too much. And afterwards, Melina gets knocked off the apron. A roll-up, it's only 2. Jeff catches a leaping Johnny Nitro with a powerbomb. Looked nasty, could have gone wrong, but Melina then hits him with her shoe and Nitro lays over Jeff Hardy to steal it. What did you think about this match?
It was a fun opener, I'll tell you that much. It was a fun opener. That's all I can really say. It was a fun opener. You have two of the not greatest, but 2 of the best mid-cards in 2006 going at it.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed this matchup, and it's often not misplaced. What's the word? Forgotten. It's often forgotten. Forgot the word there. Often forgotten is this match because it's on a card with TLC and Hell in a Cell, but a really fun opener. And it went for nearly 20 minutes as well, which is quite rare for a mid-card WWE match, I think. So to give them that time, I think it could have been a little bit shorter, but the crowd was on fire, and that's what was helped by this crowd, really. And I'll say it right now because it's not going to get a chance to be mentioned in any of the other segments, really. But what did you think about the pay-per-view stage? Because this is one of my favourite pay-per-view stage designs ever.
I think it's a great, if I'm remembering correctly, I think it's a great stage. I loved John Cena's entrance in it, and I loved everyone else's entrance in it.
Yeah, because you've got the it's a tall stage, so it's quite high up, but it's on the ground, so it really makes use of the space. I love the Unforgiven steel metal, the steel metal walls that you get in like a warehouse along the bottom, and then the kind of trusts going up to the top there. I thought it was a nice touch, but yeah, aesthetics of the stage aside, love this match. Johnny Nitro retains the championship. The only thing I would say is it would have been better had Melina knocked Jeff Hardy with the shoe when he was going to go for the Swanton, because it just felt a little bit of an anticlimactic finish.
He came, he saw, and it did nothing in the end.
There you go. And in the back, Matt Hardy, he's saying, Jeff Hardy, you did all right, bruv. So it's the first time they've been on. Oh, sorry, no. Oh, Jay White. Oi, bruvs. I'm paraphrasing, is what I'm doing. But Matt Hardy is talking to Jeff, but then who comes in and ruins the fun, Piggy?
It's the only man Edge ever screwed over. Lita.
What does Lita have to say?
I don't know. I wasn't listening. I was too focused on her fake tits.
Oh yeah, of course, it's peak Lita. Anyway, regardless of her tit talk, she's talking trash to Matt and Jeff Hardy. Says, you're both losers. And what was the comeback that the Hardys had? Again,
I was not listening. I was...
Well, I'll tell you. While you were staring, the Hardys, they didn't have a comeback.
I was staring at Matt Hardy, alright?
Yeah, alright, fine. The Hardys didn't have a comeback for her. They just let her walk away. Because they understood. I think Matt Hardy saw a little bit like, yeah, maybe we are losers. Why is Matt Hardy here? He's on SmackDown.
He's here to support his brother.
I guess. Well, he could have supported him better, because if he supported him and been out there to sort of help, then maybe Jeff would have been Intercontinental Champion. It's alright, though, because Jeff wins the championship like 2 weeks later, so it's all good. It's all good. Next up, a duel of monsters. Kane taking on Umaga with Armando Alejandro Estrada. Everybody listen to me. I can quote that. I can quote all of his sayings off the top of my head. I remember I was a big fan of Umaga, but I was also terrified of him as a child. And Kane as well, I was also very scared of. So 2 of the scariest people for 8-year-old Fergs to be watching on TV fighting. And already JR's like, this ain't going to be pretty. It might not be a 5-star classic. Which, I don't know. Give him a chance, lads. But Yeah, what did you think about this?
You love, I love when Kane hit the Canadian Destroyer. That's what I love the most. When Kane, when this was a shout out to Pee-wee Williams, hit a Canadian Destroyer, did a top rope senton over the rope for Armando Estrada, and then did a 450 frog splash, top rope moonsault to Umaga.
You take the mick, but there is a point where Kane sends Umaga flying out of the ring, and they do enough in this match. I think it's fun it's short. It's only like 5 minutes or so, and it ends in a double count out. I can't really list off too many things that happen in this match, but it's a lot better than I thought it was going to be. We can address the elephant in the room. Armando Estrada looks an awful lot like my character in NLW, but I'm sure it's just a coincidence.
Yeah, famously, Fergal looks a lot like Armando Estrada, but we've never seen them in the same room, so we don't know.
You don't know. But I can confirm I wasn't here. I wasn't present at this match. But the crowd was into the near falls. I know every time that Umaga got knocked off his feet, the crowd would be proper into it. So there are a couple of... He blocks a Samoan spike, and then he tries to belly-to-belly suplex Umaga over the top. They fight through the crowd, and it leads to a double count out. So a bit of a flat finish, and I wish that they'd have done like a big spot. I was honestly expecting, when they brawled to the back, I don't know about you, but I was expecting them to fly through the steel.
I was not expecting that. I was just thought they were going to go back and have a lovely cup of tea and talk about the match.
Talk it out, yeah. But overall, what are your thoughts on this?
It was a nothing match, but it was a good match. It was a good match. They showed two big beefy boys battling it out in the beef off.
Hell yeah. I liked it. I thought it was fine for what it was, and it didn't outstay its welcome. I can forgive match if a match is under 5 minutes. I'm a lot kinder to it than a boring match that goes over 10, you know?
Yeah.
Speaking of which, next match, World Tag Titles on the line. The Spirit Squad taking on the Highlanders. Geez, talk about two teams that have been left to the annals of history with a very short time span. This was the peak of the Highlanders right here. So we've got the Spirit Squad, who are represented in this match by Mikey and Kenny.
Two of the best Spirit Squad members behind whoever the hell Dolph Ziggler was.
Dolph Ziggler is Nicky. You know, I know my Spirit Squad lore. Didn't like these guys as a kid. I wanted DX to kick their asses every week. But the crowd not as into this matchup, and it's only fair. You know, the Highlanders have only been there for a couple of months, but I honestly cannot name any matches they've had aside from this, or any feuds they've had. It feels like they were there for about 2 years and did nothing of note at all, which is weird to be there for so long and not do anything really.
They did. One of them showed up on TNA.
Oh yeah, and then got them fired. So they did that. But that was like 2 years after this. I literally thought, it must be soon after this that he showed up on TNA. No, it took like 2 years. It's just that they weren't doing anything with them anyway. And I think they probably wanted to get fired, let's be honest. But they did some alright stuff in this match. You know, nothing too amazing. But there are some interesting moves in this match. Robbie hits a suicide dive, or he tries to anyway. There's some Spirit Squad teaming up on them. There's double teams, but you know, nothing really that groundbreaking. Rory gets a hot tag, and the crowd, you know, gets into it a little bit. They do a double rebound. What do you call it? It's like a reverse DDT off the ropes, which is quite interesting. Kenny breaks it up. Johnny hits a face buster, and then they retain. And again, it's quite a flat finish because it looks as if they're going to save the pin, but it just kind of ends. Nothing really scream. It's more of a Raw match, this one. That it went for about 10 minutes, but I feel like it should have gone a lot shorter. But it was fine, really. What about you?
It was a fine match, but it was nothing to know home about, because like it had the Highlanders. Who the hell are the Highlanders?
The Highlanders. They teamed with Roddy Piper on the Raw before this, so they obviously saw something in them. But again, they didn't really do anything of note other than this. They turned heel in 2007, if I recall correctly. One of them got injured. They had a couple of singles matches. They wrestled mainly on Heat, so you know, you'd be forgiven for not remembering them too much. But they got a pay-per-view match here, so fair play to them. It wasn't terrible, it was just didn't really belong on this pay-per-view. But we move on now to Hell in a Cell. D-Generation X, Triple H and Shawn Michaels taking on the ECW champion, the Big Show, Shane and Vince McMahon. A rivalry that has lasted for almost a year now, with Vince and Michaels originally starting their feud in December of 2005, and now it's come to this, Hell in a Cell. And I knew this match off like the back of my hand, because it was, as soon as the match got going, I felt like I'd seen this, I want to say 30 times. I'm not even kidding. I've seen this match so many times, but never gets old, in my opinion. This is one of my favourite Hell in a Cell matches. I know it's not one of the best ones, but it is one of my favourites. And it's not just because of a spot that ends it, but this is also the debut of the tall Hell in a Cell, the 30-footer, because the last time they had Hell in a Cell was Orton and The Undertaker, and that was the classic Hell in a Cell. This one, it's a raised roof, it's more solid steel, it's a bit brighter as well. What do you prefer, this Hell in a Cell that they used here, or the old one?
I love the red Hell in a Cell, the Child's Play one.
No one enjoys that one. You got to pick between this one and the old one.
The red one. I'm going for the red one.
Okay, you like the playpen. Okay.
I also do enjoy the 30-footer one, the one where it's more massive, because you have a lot more space compared to the old one. It's very compact.
But I quite liked that it felt grittier before. It feels a bit too... But I suppose not in this matchup. Maybe it's because of the PG era. This is like the cut-off point, because you're about to go PG, so this is the last truly bloody Hell in a Cell match. I know we get Undertaker and Batista a year later, but in terms of the TV14 era, this is the last truly bloody Hell in a Cell, and it's also the bloodiest Hell in a Cell that they've had in like this type of Hell in a Cell. So Big Show looks like shit. I don't want to be rude or anything, but he is not looking healthy.
This is one of Big Show's worst times in wrestling history, I want to say.
Yeah, but I will say, in spite of that, looks scary.
He does.
And look, he got that intimidating look about him. So DX start the match off and double low blow him, and then they beat the hell out of Vince and Shane, and it's bleeding all over the place already. There's a screwdriver to Vince. Once Big Show gets up, things take a turn, and when the Big Show's involved, it gets a little bit dull. It drags on a little bit because he's just sort of hitting slams. Really, I know he's there so that the McMahons can have an advantage, but he really didn't need to be here, other than the finish. But what's your opinion on that?
On the finish or on the match?
We'll go from your highlights of the match. What were your favourite parts of this?
I loved how Vince blade, because no one can quite blade like Vince.
It was the most obvious blade job, though, wasn't it? Because you could see him hit the Hell in a Cell and then immediately grab his face and just slice it.
Yeah, but like no one can blade like Vince, because I think Vince is up there with the top bladers in history. Like he's up there between Devon and then Ric Flair.
Yeah.
And then somewhere in between John Moxley.
Yeah, absolutely. But aside, your thoughts on? Because I think Shane was probably the MVP of this match.
Shane is definitely the most underrated McMahon. He's not my favourite McMahon. We all know who my favourite is. My queen, Linda.
Of course, yes, Linda. Do you think that
Sadly,
DX should have had Linda as their tag team partner in this match?
Yeah, Linda would have destroyed DX. There's a reason why Linda McMahon has never wrestled. And the reason is, if Linda McMahon ever wrestled, the universe would explode. She's too powerful. True.
We need to do the Linda McMahon arc on this podcast, actually.
Have you seen Linda McMahon? If anyone tries to hit her, she could explode the universe. She is truly the god of WWE. No one can fight her, because when everyone fights her, the world explodes.
Yeah, that's not exaggeration whatsoever.
I'm just saying, it's also like John Cena holding a train with webs, but still,
yeah,
you can live with lies and I'll live with truths.
Okay. Well, we get a lot of blood in this match. You got blood pouring out of Triple H's ear after the coast to coast on Triple H. There's lawn darts into the Hell in a Cell. Big Show's just laughing in his ear while he's just bleeding. And Shane slingshots Triple H into the cell. And Vince's reactions are really what makes this, in my opinion. He is just gross. This is the grossest Vince McMahon, I think, actually. 2003 to 2006. And I believe the episode next week we'll talk about Vince a little bit. But yeah, this is the grossest Vince McMahon. What's your thought on Vince's sort of selling in this one?
He has face expressions like Monty Brown. I don't know if you could tell that, but like he was doing expressions like Monty Brown would do expressions.
Yeah, like that over-exaggerated, like snarling, yeah.
Yeah, it was. This is also the time where Vince got into a lot of hot water and realised that he used hush-hush money for the same hush-hush money he used for Jimmy Snuka killing a woman. But it's Christmas, so we have to pretend he didn't do that.
Keep it festive. Keep it festive.
I'm just saying, this is the timeline where Vince's allegations, are being hushed, and they come to light many years later, and then he steps down as chairman. But we're in 2006, and as a chairman, he's doing okay.
What do you think about the finish then? Well, I'll get to the finish. I'll tell you if I think it's comeuppance or not for his many, many misdeeds, not just in kayfabe. So, Shawn Michaels gets thrown, yeeted by the Big Show. There's pin attempts that are broken up. Eventually, there are... I think Shane at one point it's kind of like an angle slam. It's almost like it's a shouting out Kurt Angle, but hey, he's just left at this point, so you never know. Triple H eventually interrupts the Big Show splash on him by pulling Vince McMahon in the way. Then they take control of the Big Show, crotch him on the ring post, flying elbow onto Shane, and then a elbow off the top through a chair onto the neck of Shane McMahon. He's bleeding, looks absolutely disgusting. Show brings in steel steps, but gets dropped toe-holded onto them, and that's when we get the finish. And I want you to talk us through this.
This is like, he gives out with my Austin and Rock moment, but this is young 8-year-old Ferg's Austin and Rock moment. This is his you think you're special moment. This is when Vince McMahon tries to get... This is when... Sorry, I've said that. This is when DX pulled down Big Show's pants, grabbed Vince's head, and shove it so far in there like a watermelon going up his cheeks. Like, this is mental. This is your Austin and Rock moment.
This was the moment where I will recall to my grandchildren that this was what got me into professional wrestling, was Vince McMahon's head, bloody head, shoved up the Big Show's giant crack. And this is also, because it's the largest Big Show, it's technically also the largest that Big Show's ass has ever been. I don't know whether that's better or worse, though. That's worse.
I just wonder, did like Vince's blood go into Big Show's ass?
Yeah, that's not health and safety. I don't think that's very safe, is it?
Because, like, imagine taking a shit and then going, is that my blood? Is that Vince's blood? Whose blood is that?
Yeah, very interesting. I don't really want to think about that, to be honest. Big Show's big sweaty bum. But Vince McMahon, but yeah. Oh, we have fun. We have fun on this podcast. And they have fun in this match. I'll tell you what, Vince McMahon not having fun. Switching music, boom, sledgehammer to the back of the skull, snaps off. Brutal match. The McMahons took a hell of a ass kicking in this one. I do love it as a Hell in a Cell, though, but that's because I'm biased from watching this so many times. But very physical, very violent, bloody. Loved it. What do you think about this match?
Well, to me, it was a boring match at the start. It picks up towards the end. Like, I'm talking from a perspective where I haven't seen this millions and millions and millions and millions.
Yes.
And millions times. So I'm just saying it was a nothing match for me. I only loved the ending. But I also loved when they were blading. Just wish you had more Linda McMahon. You know?
Yeah.
The wrong McMahons were in there.
Do you reckon she would have taken away from it, though? Because she would have... You know that Linda McMahon would jump off the cell just to get a pop.
Linda, I tell you what Linda would have done. Linda would have stood on top of the Hell in a Cell, the 30 feet Hell in a Cell. Shawn Michaels would have been on the announce table. And you know the Fosbury flock that AJ Styles does?
Yeah.
Linda would somehow do a Fosbury flock 450 frog splash to Shawn Michaels. I tell you, that's why Linda can't wrestle, because Linda's too powerful. That's why they've never released an action figure. Yeah. That's why she's never really in games. That's why Vince divorced her, allegedly.
We'll leave that sentence there. I'm going to film that spot, I'm sure, in a match for my WrestleMania. But yeah, again, I'm biased. That's why I love this match. But I still think it's fun. It's a fun brawl. bloody brawl. I'd recommend it. I'd also recommend this next match. WWE Women's Championship on the line, Lita versus Trish Stratus. So this is Trish Stratus's last match, and it's obviously fitting that her last opponent, at least at this time, is Lita, and she got out of that women's division at the right point because it went downhill after this. However, a very, very fun match, emotional as well. Trish Stratus getting to compete in her last match, well, at least last match as a full-time wrestler in her hometown of Toronto, Canada. And this is a very good women's match for the time. In fact, at the time, it's probably my favourite, at least pre-Women's Evolution, my favourite women's match I'd seen. What were your opinions on this match?
It was a good send-off for Trish, because Trish was kind of the Gail Kim, and Lita was kind of the Awesome Kong of that division. They were the glue that held it together. They showed that it doesn't have to be all bra and panties. It was just a fun match. Like, I can't give it more praise than that. It wasn't a 5-star classic, but it was definitely a good match. I'd recommend to go out of your way and watch it. My favourite spot is when Trish goes for the Stratusfaction, is it?
Yeah.
And Lita just goes, "No, you're going out of the ring." And she just throws her.
Literally just yeets her away. Very, very good, that spot. And it's just heel tactics from Lita. And the crowd is so into this match. And you'd think that this would be a cool down, wouldn't you? Because you just had Hell in a Cell. But fair play to them. They're really, really into this match. And it really helped it. And I just appreciated that they were given that time to, it's not the longest match in history, but it's a good, solid 10 minutes of action. Very, very fun. Trish, like you said, she gets thrown to the outside. They come to blows. Shit kick, only a 2 count, and the near falls are pretty good because you don't know if Lita is going to retain or not, because obviously she's the one who's going to be staying there, at least for a little bit, not for too long. Spoiler alert, Lita will be gone like 2 months after this, so they lose Lita and Trish within the span of 2 months, so not good for the women's division. But they lock in the sharpshooter, wrenches it back, and it's pop, such a huge pop for Trish to win as Lita taps, and she's the new women's champion. Fantastic send-off, maybe their best match they've had, but to do it in Canada and to get that pop on her final match at the time, very, very good send-off for Trish. I loved this at the time, and if you want to get anything pre-Women's Evolution for women's wrestling, definitely seek this match out. What are your opinions?
Again, my opinions are a very good match. I say go out of your way to watch it. Definitely, for watching anything from this show, watch the main event and Lita versus Trish. Maybe the Hell in a Cell, depending on your view. But definitely watch this match.
I would definitely recommend this over the Hell in a Cell. Obviously, I love Hell in a Cell just because it's a nostalgia thing for me. But this one is actually a good match. Not that Hell in a Cell isn't, but yeah, you should probably go out your way to watch this. Randy Orton's a bastard, though. He gets an interview afterwards and basically calls Trish Stratus a bitch. Simple to the point.
Yeah.
And our next match is Carlita versus Randy Orton. Randy Orton 2 years ago won the World Heavyweight Championship in the same building. It doesn't matter who he won it from. Doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter who he won it from.
He defeated. Who did he defeat it there? Who did he defeat?
He won.
Purple Liger.
Yeah, it was Purple Liger. We see. I'm sure on the results it says Randy Orton wins the World Heavyweight Championship. And that's all it says.
Yeah, they don't like to mention Purple Liger. But Purple Liger was like the man in 2004. I don't know if people know, but I'd go out of the way to watch the Royal Rumble 2004 when Purple Liger wins it by eliminating Big Show, and then watch the Randy Orton Purple Liger match. Because, you think you've seen all the Jushin Liger matches. You think you've seen them all. Then you put on that 5-star classic.
Well, Jushin Liger, inverted commas, Jushin Liger fell off 2 years after their world title win there, and Randy Orton as well has fallen off since his world title win, because he had the World Championship win, and then didn't really come of anything. The feud with The Undertaker was fine. He gets a shot at the main event of WrestleMania. Well, not the main event at WrestleMania, but gets a chance to become heavyweight champion against Mysterio and Angle at that year's Mania. So was in a high-profile position. But since, I want to say, it feels like he had a terrible 2006, but really he didn't. It was fine. But you did sense that maybe he wouldn't be a world champion after this, at least at this moment in time. But again, we were proved wrong. He was a stroppy man at this point. But Carlito spits at Orton. And Carlito as well, to be fair to him. He's not exactly in the best place at the moment. But it should be a fun match. Like, Carlito hits a couple of springboards. At one point, he hits a springboard moonsault, which catches Randy Orton in the mouth, and he starts bleeding. You can tell that Orton's going to go back and give out about Carlito. After all, he made Kennedy go fire, didn't he? So, yeah.
And Kennedy has not been seen in WWE since 2009.
No, and it starts and ends with Randy Orton there. And Carlito actually was gone soon after that. Probably not because of this, but I'm sure he didn't give himself any favours. Carlito is in the chin lock for a long time. Oh, jeez. It's only a 9-minute match, and like half of the match was a chin lock. But I suppose that's Orton's specialty.
And a wrestling bio's favourite move.
Absolutely. The dreaded chin lock. But Carlito gets back into the matchup. Hits a couple of moves. Hits the backstabber, and Orton's just kind of writhing around. Randy Orton looks like Mr. Tickle, and I can't explain that. You know the way he moves? It's quite...
Mr. Tickle?
Yeah, because he's fluid. He's fluid. You know, like Mr. Tickle's got his long arms, and Randy Orton's quite snaky, quite wiggly. You know?
Someone needs to Photoshop Randy Orton's face onto Mr. Tickle. That has to be our thumbnail.
Oh, damn it! Never mind. I'll you know what? I'll Photoshop that and I'll make it into a video. Mr. Tickle, Randy Orton. But yeah, not in a bad, sexy way. Anyway, we'll move on to the finish. Talk about the finish. One of the best Randy Orton RKOs ever.
I'm going to just be honest here. I was not watching the match. I was listening to the match. It's the thing.
So you didn't see the RKO?
Yeah, I just listened to the RKO. I was like, it's Carlito versus Randy Orton.
No. This RKO, the match was fine, but the RKO, geez, top 10, maybe top 5 RKOs ever. Carlito, double springboard. He's on from the outside, springboard on the top, springboard to the another side of the ring, comes back as if he's going to do a crossbody, and then Orton, boom, hits him with an RKO from out of nowhere. Such a sick RKO. And yeah, he wins. It was quick at points. The only points that were really slow was the Randy Orton chinlock, which lasted half of the match. But the RKO finish, absolutely fantastic. Loved it. The match was fine, but seek out the RKO if you can from this show. I'm not going to ask your opinion because you didn't watch it.
I listened to it.
From your listening of it, what do you think?
Terrible.
Oh yeah, well, never mind. Search out the RKO. It's fantastic. Main event time for the WWE Championship. Tables, ladders, and chairs. Edge says, it's the match you've never won. It's a match I've never lost. Well, he did lose, didn't he? Can you remember what TLC match he lost?
Was it the one against Eddie Guerrero? No, that was a ladder match.
No.
He lost TLC 3.
Yes, TLC 3. And this is even before when we're not mentioning Liger. So, there's no excuse really. I suppose because they call it the Forgotten TLC match for a reason. So, it's understandable. But literally, he's only had 4 TLC matches at this point. So, 1 out of 3. Anyway, semantics. It's a rivalry that has been brewing since the start of the year when John Cena had his title stolen from him when Edge cashed in Money in the Bank. And it's Cena's last shot, because if he loses, he's off to SmackDown. I love how SmackDown is this horrible, horrible place in kayfabe where, oh god, you don't want to be going there. But yeah, Teddy Long, he's watching in the stands. He's excited to see if John Cena can lose this match and end up on his brand. I think, John Cena on SmackDown, what do you think he would have done there had they gone through with that?
I think plans were originally to have Cena go to SmackDown. I think Cena wanted to go to SmackDown to turn heel. But Vince was like,
yeah.
No, you stop to train with your bare arms. A young Trey White's going to be sad. A young piggy, a young 3-year-old piggy, before he gets an autograph from John Cena, is going to be sad.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess there was more steam in the Cena train as a face, but that maybe he could have been... Well, I can't say, they should have turned him heel, because history will say John Cena's the greatest ever, so I suppose that'd be stupid. Would have been easier, though, if they turned him heel. But I digress. Edge, you can see him crying before the bell, which is quite interesting. Obviously, is very happy to get this reaction here. And it's basically wrestling to start. Edge slaps John Cena in the face. The crowd loves it. And this year, in particular, had 3 of the biggest anti-Cena crowds ever. So you had WrestleMania 22 when he faced Triple H. You had One Night Stand against RVD. And you had here in Toronto against Edge. And Edge is the hometown hero. Edge, every time he hits something, he drop kicks a ladder into Cena's face. The crowd cheers. And Cena comes back with a hip toss onto a ladder in the corner. There's a superplex through a table, but Edge fights it off, and then he tries a sunset flip, but that's when they botch it. But Cena, he does get up, and he eventually covers for it, which isn't too bad. Edge is in control, and Cena essentially sandwiches him between the ladder, and Edge is tapping out, but I don't know why the referee's in the ring. Well, what's the point of that? Just stay outside. FU's the ladder onto Edge, which I thought was quite a nice touch. 5-knuckle shuffle off the ladder as well. So a lot of cool spots in this match, and no one's actually gone up to get the belt yet, so they paced it pretty well. Cena sets up a table and a massive chair shot, brain-shattering chair. Edge sets up another table. Oh dear, it's going to get something interesting. Edge is powerbombed into an open ladder. Cena's close to winning, and then that's when Lita comes out and tilts the ladder over, and he goes back first into a table, and the crowd is fever pitch at this point. Edge is climbing, but Super Cena comes back. Lita hits him with a chair, and then knocks him into a ladder, which knocks Edge off and through a table. That could have been nasty. Cena FUs her, and then we get Edge, who's back up to meet Cena on the top. And then, before we talk about the finish, what were your favourite parts of this match?
I loved everything that Cena did. Everyone was booing. I was like, yes, this is the John Cena I know. But everyone, boos him. And he's like, no, I'm a face. I cannot cheat. I loved when he was beating up Edge, because everyone would cheer Edge, everyone would boo Cena. I loved when Lita got involved. I loved when Lita pushed him off the ladder. Did you think Lita's going to James Ellsworth it, where she grabbed the title and then she becomes WWE champion?
Oh yeah, that would have been interesting. The crowd would have loved that, though, to be fair.
Probably would have loved to seen another live sex celebration.
Ayo. Yeah, but there is no live sex celebration here. Just pain for Edge. Talk about the final bump.
Cena goes up to the ladder. Edge goes up the ladder. They have a lovely discussion. Cena talks about, is a penguin bar really a bar? Edge says no. Cena's like, penguin bars are a bar. Here's a joke. Have you ever seen a penguin fly? Edge goes, what? And then he goes through a table, and Cena goes, penguin bars are bars. And there you go.
Grabs the rated R belt. And also, what did you think about the rated R belt? I completely forgot to mention it.
I like it better than the concept ideas that Edge had.
Yeah, they didn't look too good, did they? It was like the Intercontinental thing. I think this is simple. You know what would have been cool? Had they had RVD have, his peace symbol as the spinner? When he was the champion. And I think if they'd have continued that thing on by having custom middle spinning plates, that could have been interesting, at least for a time, and then sort of retire it. But yeah, a brutal, it looked like Edge was going to neck himself at one point. I think he over-rotated a little bit, where he just landed on his arse through 2 tables. But this was another spot, other than Vince getting his head shoved in Big Show's ass, that made me a wrestling fan, just seeing that, and it would be replayed over and over again on those don't try this at home vignettes. So that was replayed constantly. Absolutely love this spot. The crowd isn't too disappointed really, but it's still one of the better TLC matches that's ever been put on, and I think that's purely down to the crowd really hyping up both wrestlers, and the fact that they to be fair, like there's no real risky spots until the very end, so it's not a spot fest in the slightest. It's built well. But yeah, overall, what did you think about this match?
I loved this match, of course. A young 3-year-old piggy would not have been watching, but had I been watching, I might have got into wrestling then.
Yeah, it's one that, especially with Hell in a Cell, TLC, 2 massive matches, both on the same card as well. Forget about it. Like that was me hooked from then on, and the rest, as they say, is history. So that is Unforgiven. What did you think about the show overall?
It was a good show. It's a good show to get into if you want to become a wrestling fan.
Yeah, favourite match?
Favourite match has to be Trish versus Lita, followed by Cena versus Edge, and then, just for the pure bollocks of it, the Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, Hell in a Cell. It was pure, just stupid. It was stupid. No doubt about it. Hell in a Cell is a match that I've probably watched over and over and over again. I would be biased and say Hell in a Cell was my favourite match, but on rewatch, I would have to say TLC. Close second would be the women's match, though, because that was, again, the crowd made it. And this crowd was on fire. It made this pay-per-view, in my opinion. Like, they were on fire for most of it. Apart from the tag title match, like, the only bits I didn't like were the tag title match, because at least the other matches were short. Like Kane versus Umaga, it was what it needed to be. The opener was fun as well, and I'm a massive Jeff Hardy fan, so there you go. And Carlito and Orton, the ending was absolutely awesome. Like the RKO, iconic. So, and set, the commentators, everything, it's just nostalgia, but this is one of my favourite pay-per-views of all time. So, yeah, any closing thoughts?
I have no closing thoughts. Make sure to tune in next week when we're watching my birthday. Well, not my birthday, but the episode I was born.
Yeah.
Weird way to say it, but
yeah, we are doing tomorrow. Tomorrow? What am I talking about? Next week. You gotta wait a little longer. But this is obviously the arc where we're showing you what got us into wrestling. So we got the shows that we first watched, and now we're going to move on to the shows that were on when we were born. You were just a young piglet, I was a little Fergs, and we were fresh in the world. So we can kind of give you a taste of what it was like around the time of our births. So we start that off with next week's Raw from the 29th of December 2003. Around the time you would have been a young little piglet. And it's going to be fun because we've got Triple H versus Shawn Michaels in the main event. Stone Cold Steve Austin's doing some wacky stuff. Randy Orton's a bastard as well. You're going to love it. And that is it for this wrestling podcast, this episode of Pigs and Fergs. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like the video and also comment down below what you thought about this episode. And, subscribe to Pigs and Fergs because we appreciate all the support, don't we?
We do. We love each and every one of our fans.
Absolutely.
Who are not transphobic, homophobic, racist, but we love the rest of you who are not that. I love
you all because I'm a sellout. But that is it for this podcast. I'm going to have to cut that, aren't I? That doesn't sound good if I'm endorsing racist fans.
Editor, keep it in.
Alright, I'm keeping it in. Screw it. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.